The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with beings from 12 different worlds. They sat in floating chairs arranged in a wide circle, their eyes fixed on the massive holographic screen that hung in the center of the room. The screen showed a live feed from deep space, where a single human ship moved slowly through the darkness. High Speaker Velnes clicked his mandibles together as he watched. He was a Neth, a tall, insect-like creature with 4 arms and compound eyes that saw everything at once. For 3,000 years, his species had led the council. They had seen many new species join and leave, but humans were different. Humans were strange. "Why must we watch this?" Counselor Braun asked. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. He was a Torak, a reptilian being covered in thick green scales. His yellow eyes showed nothing but annoyance. "This is a simple escort mission, a waste of our time." "Because you demanded proof," Velnes replied calmly. "You said humans were too unstable, too emotional, too dangerous. So now we watch, we see what they really are." Braun made a low growling sound but said nothing more. On the other side of the chamber, Ambassador Lyra spread her wings slightly. She was Kesari, a bird-like species with beautiful blue feathers and large golden eyes. Unlike Braun, she had always been kind to the humans. She had spoken in their favor when they first asked to join the council. "Those are my people on those refugee ships," she said softly. 300 Kesari civilians, women, children, elderly, all fleeing from Marak raiders who burned their colony world. "And the humans volunteered to protect them," Velnes noted. "They asked for this mission themselves." "Foolish," Braun muttered. "The Marak are brutal. The humans have only one ship. If there is trouble, they will die." Lyra turned to look at him. "Perhaps, but at least they were willing to try. When I asked our own fleet for help, they said it was too dangerous." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew it was true. The Marak were feared across the galaxy. They were raiders, slavers, killers. No one wanted to fight them. Far away, aboard the human ship called the Endurance, Captain Park Jun stood on the bridge with his hands clasped behind his back. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a calm face. His dark hair was cut short in the military style, and his eyes held the steady look of someone who had seen both peace and war. "Status report," he said. Lieutenant Kang Yuna looked up from her tactical station. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with sharp eyes and quick hands that moved across her controls like water flowing over rocks. "All systems normal, Captain. The convoy is maintaining formation. We should reach safe space in 6 hours. "Good." June looked at the main view screen where the 6 refugee ships floated in a protective cluster. They were old ships, barely held together. But inside them were living beings who needed help. That was enough. Dr. Shin Hana stepped onto the bridge. She was the ship's medic, a small woman with gentle hands and a warm smile. But today her face looked troubled. "Captain, I just finished checking the refugee ships by remote scanner." "What did you find?" Hana took a deep breath. "Over half of the refugees are children. Some of them are very young, bobbies even, and many are injured, burns, broken bones. The Marak attack on their world was bad." Something shifted in the bridge. It was not visible, but everyone felt it. The crew members straightened in their chairs, their eyes hardened, their jaws tightened. June's voice remained calm, but there was something underneath it now, something cold. "Understood, Doctor. Make sure our medical bay is ready to receive patients when we reach the station." "Yes, Captain." Back in the council chamber, Velnes noticed the change too. The human biometric data was being transmitted alongside the visual feed. Heart rates had increased slightly. Stress hormones were rising, but it was not fear. It was something else. "Interesting," he murmured. "What is?" Lyra asked. "Their biology. When they learned about the children, their bodies started preparing for something. Not panic, not flight." He tilted his head, compound eyes blinking. "I am not sure what." Braun snorted. Humans are always preparing for violence. It is in their nature. Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the chamber. On the screen, new contacts appeared from behind a nearby asteroid field. Ships, many ships. They were painted red and black, with weapons already charging. Marak Raiders. 5 ships, Lyra whispered, her feathers pressing flat against her body in fear. 5 against 1. On the Endurance, the alarms were screaming. Crew members rushed to their stations. Lieutenant Yuna's fingers flew across her controls, pulling up tactical data. 5 Marak warships, Captain. They're moving to surround us. They outgun us by a factor of 4. Sergeant Beak T entered the bridge at a run. He was the leader of the ship's ground forces, a thick-bodied man covered in scars from a lifetime of combat. His voice was rough but steady. "Sir, what are your orders?" Before June could answer, a transmission crackled through the speakers. The face that appeared on screen was hideous. Gray skin, 4 eyes, a mouth full of sharp teeth arranged in something like a smile. "Human vessel," the creature said. "I am Warlord Dreth of the Marak fleet. You are carrying cargo that belongs to me. Those Kesari are slaves now, my property. Surrender them and I will let you leave. Refuse and I will tear your ship apart and take them anyway. You have 1 minute to decide." The transmission ended. In the council chamber, several delegates were already shaking their heads. "It is over," one of them said. "The humans will surrender. They have no choice." "Or they will run," another added. "Leave the refugees behind, save themselves." Lyra closed her eyes. She could not watch her people be taken. But on the Endurance, Captain Park June did not look afraid. He did not look worried. He looked at his crew and his crew looked back at him. They understood each other without words. June pressed a button on his command chair. His voice echoed through every deck of the ship, calm and cold as ice. "All hands battle stations, seal all bulkheads, arm all weapons, prepare for close combat." Lieutenant Yuna looked up. "Captain, they outnumber us 5 to 1. "I know." Sergeant Beak grinned, showing teeth. "Orders for my men, sir." June turned to face the view screen, where Dreth's ships were closing in. His eyes were no longer the eyes of a diplomat or a peacekeeper. They were the eyes of something much older, something that had hunted across the plains of Earth for 100,000 years. "Sergeant," he said quietly, "no one touches those kids." In the council chamber, High Speaker Velnes leaned forward, his mandibles clicking rapidly. He had seen many species face death. He knew the look of fear, the look of despair, the look of surrender. The humans had none of these. "What are they doing?" Braun demanded. "Why are they not running?" Lyra opened her eyes. Her heart was pounding. "I do not know," she whispered. "I do not know." On the screen, the Endurance began to move. Not away from the Marak ships, toward them, directly toward them. And somewhere deep in the ship, a young soldier named Cho Wu loaded his weapon and thought about the children he had never met. Children he had already decided to die for, if it came to that. Because that was what humans did. They did not run. The first shots lit up the darkness of space like lightning in a storm. The Marak warships fired together, their red energy beams cutting toward the Endurance with deadly aim. Any other ship would have been torn apart in seconds. But the Endurance was not any other ship. It was crewed by humans. Lieutenant Kang Yuna moved her hands across the controls like a musician playing an instrument. The ship twisted, rolled, and dove through the incoming fire with impossible grace. Explosions bloomed all around them, but nothing hit. "Direct hits avoided," she reported, her voice perfectly calm. "Minor damage to outer hull from debris." In the council chamber, the delegates watched in stunned silence. Counselor Braun's yellow eyes were wide open. He had seen many battles in his long life. He had never seen flying like this. "That is not possible," he said slowly. "Their ship is too large for those movements. The stress on the hull alone should tear them apart." High Speaker Velnes did not respond. He was watching the biometric data streaming across his private display. The human pilot's heart rate was elevated, yes, but her hands were steady. Her breathing was controlled. She was not panicking. She was focusing. Ambassador Lyra, Velnes said quietly, your species has studied many predators, yes. Tell me what you see. Lyra looked at the screen, at the way the human ship moved. It was not defensive. It was not trying to escape. It was circling, watching, waiting for an opening. Hunting behavior, she whispered. They are not trying to survive. They are looking for a way to attack. On the Endurance, Captain Park Jun gripped the armrests of his chair as the ship shook from a near miss. Alarms were ringing everywhere. Damage reports were coming in from every deck. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and surrounded. He had never felt more alive. Una, status on the convoy. The refugee ships are holding position behind us, sir. No damage. The Marek are focusing all fire on us. Good, that is exactly what I wanted. Jun's eyes scanned the tactical display. If they want those people, they have to go through us first. Sergeant Beak T's voice crackled through the communicator. Captain, I'm reading enemy boarding pods launching from their flagship. They're going to try to take us from the inside. How many? At least 30 pods, maybe 100 soldiers. Any other captain would have despaired. 100 Marek warriors were a nightmare. They were huge, strong, and completely without mercy. Their forearms could tear a man in half. Their teeth could bite through armor. Jun smiled. Sergeant, prepare your teams. Let them come aboard. Understood, sir. There was dark joy in Beak's voice. My boys have been waiting for this. In the council chamber, the delegates heard this exchange through the live feed. Several of them made sounds of confusion and fear. They are letting the enemy board, one asked. That is suicide. The Marek will slaughter them in close combat. Humans cannot fight Marek hand to hand, Braun agreed. They are too small, too weak. They should be sealing their ship and trying to escape. But they are not escaping, Velnes observed. Watch. On the Endurance, the first boarding pods hit the hull like metal fists. They punched through the outer armor and opened like flowers, releasing Marek warriors into the corridors. The creatures were massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with gray skin and 4 arms ending in clawed hands. Their mouths opened to reveal rows of teeth as they roared their war cries. They expected to find terrified prey. Instead, they found Sergeant Beak T and his soldiers waiting for them. The fight was brutal and fast. The humans did not try to match the Marek in strength. They were too smart for that. Instead, they used the narrow corridors to their advantage. They fought in teams, covering each other. They aimed for joints and eyes and throats. They did not stop. They did not retreat. They did not give up. A Marek warrior grabbed a human soldier and lifted him off the ground, ready to tear him apart. But before he could, 2 other humans attacked from the sides. One cut the alien's leg tendons. The other drove a blade into its neck. The creature fell, and the first soldier was back on his feet in seconds, blood streaming from his wounds but still fighting. In the council chamber, the delegates watched this in horror. They do not stop, one whispered. That soldier was injured. He should be screaming in pain. Why is he still fighting? Velnes checked the biometric data. What he saw made his compound eyes widen. Their bodies are flooding with chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, endorphins. Their pain receptors are being blocked. Their muscles are being pushed beyond normal limits. They are killing themselves, Braun said. No, Lyra responded softly. They are protecting something. This is what humans do when they protect something they care about. Deep in the ship near the cargo bay, Private Cho Wu stood guard with 3 other soldiers. They were young, all of them, but their eyes were hard and their weapons were ready. Behind them, hidden in the cargo bay, were 53 Kesari refugees, women, children, elderly. They had been moved here when the attack started, to the most protected part of the ship. They huddled together in the darkness, their feathers pressed flat with fear. One of the children, a small girl with bright blue feathers, looked at Cho Wu through a gap in the cargo containers. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. His uniform was torn, but he stood straight and tall, his weapon pointed at the door. "Is the human going to save us?" she asked her mother. "I do not know, little one." A Marak warrior burst through the door. It was huge, even bigger than the others. Its 4 eyes locked onto the human soldiers, and it let out a roar that shook the walls. Cho Wu fired. The first shot hit the creature's shoulder. The second hit its chest, but it kept coming. It was too strong, too fast. It knocked away the other soldiers like they were toys and reached for Cho Wu with its massive claws. The young private did not run. He did not scream. He threw himself forward directly at the monster and drove his combat knife into its throat. They both fell to the ground, blood pooling beneath them. For a long moment there was silence. Then Cho Wu pushed himself up onto his knees. The Marak was dead, but the soldier was badly wounded. His arm hung at a strange angle. His face was pale from blood loss. But he pulled himself to his feet anyway. He picked up his weapon with his one good hand, and he turned to face the door again. The little Kesari girl watched with wide eyes. She did not understand what she was seeing. No one she knew would do this. When you were hurt, you stopped fighting. When you were dying, you lay down. But the human did not stop. The human did not lie down. In the council chamber, High Speaker Velnes rose from his chair. His mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of deep emotion in his species. "What is wrong?" Bron demanded. "What do you see?" Velnes pointed at the biometric display. "Look at his readings. His body is failing. His blood pressure is dropping. By all logic, he should be unconscious. But look at his brain activity." Bron looked, and for the first time, the old reptile felt something like fear. The human's brain was not shutting down. It was lighting up. Every part of it was active, working together in perfect harmony. It was as if the approaching death had woken something inside him, something ancient, something that refused to stop. "What is happening to their eyes?" Velnes asked quietly. On the screen, Cho Wu's eyes had changed. The pupils were wide and dark. The normal softness was gone. What looked out from those eyes was not civilized. It was not gentle. It was the gaze of a predator. And it was waiting for more prey to come through that door. Lieutenant Yuna's voice came over the ship's speakers, calm as always. "All hands be advised. Marak flagship is moving closer. They are preparing a second wave of boarding parties." Captain June's response was immediate. "Let them come. We have not even started yet." In the council chamber, Ambassador Lyra turned to Bron. Her golden eyes were filled with something the reptile had never seen before. Not fear, something else. "You asked why they do not run," she said softly. "Now I understand. They do not have a running instinct, not when others are depending on them." "That is impossible," Bron insisted. "Every species has survival instincts." "Humans do too," Lyra replied. "But their survival instincts are connected to their pack, their family, their children." She looked at the screen at the young soldier standing guard over her people. "And right now, those Kesari children are their pack." High Speaker Velnes sat back down slowly. He had led the council for 3,000 years. He thought he had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. He was wrong. "This is only the beginning," he murmured. "They have not even shown us everything yet." On the Endurance, the second wave of Marak warriors was coming. They did not know that they were not attacking a ship. They were walking into a den of hunters who had just woken up. Dr. Shin Hana worked with blood on her hands. The medical bay was full of wounded soldiers. They lay on tables and on the floor, their bodies torn by Marak claws and teeth. Any normal doctor would be overwhelmed. Any normal doctor would be crying. Hana was not crying. Her hands moved with perfect calm, stitching wounds and stopping bleeding. Her face showed nothing but focus. She had no time for tears. Her people needed her. A young Kesari woman stood in the corner of the medical bay, watching with wide eyes. She was a refugee, one of the few who had been brought to the Endurance for emergency treatment when the attack started. Her wing was broken, wrapped in bandages. "Why do you keep fighting?" she asked softly. "You are losing, your ship is damaged, your people are dying. Why do you not surrender?" Hana looked up from her work. For a moment the refugee saw something in the human's eyes, something old and fierce. Then it was gone, replaced by a gentle smile. "Because surrendering means those children die," Hana said simply, "and that is not going to happen. But you cannot save them. There are too many enemies." Hana returned to her work, her needle moving through flesh with practiced skill. "Let me tell you something about humans. On our world a long time ago, we were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. There were animals much bigger than us with sharper teeth and harder claws. They should have eaten us all. What happened? We refused to be eaten." Hana tied off a stitch and moved to the next patient. "We learned to work together. We learned to keep going when our bodies said stop. We learned to chase our prey for days, never resting until they collapsed from exhaustion. The big animals could outrun us for a while, but we never stopped. We never gave up. Eventually, they all fell." The Kesari woman shivered. "That sounds terrifying." "It is," Hana agreed. "We terrified everything on our planet until we were the only ones left, and now we have found something worth protecting, so we will do what we have always done." "What is that?" Hana smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We will keep going until the enemy falls." In the council chamber, High Speaker Velnes listened to this conversation through the ship's internal audio feed. He looked at the other delegates. Many of them were pale with shock. "Do you understand now?" he asked quietly. "This is not a species that fights to survive. This is a species that was built to pursue, to hunt, to never stop." "Persistence predators," Lyra whispered. "I have read about them, but I never thought." "Never thought what?" Braun demanded. His scales were standing up, a sign of deep unease in his species. "I never thought I would see one." Lyra's feathers ruffled. "Most persistence predators are simple animals. They chase prey until it dies from exhaustion. But humans are intelligent. They have technology. They have starships. Can you imagine what a persistence predator can do with a starship?" No one answered. They were all watching the screen. On the Endurance, Sergeant Beak T led his remaining soldiers through the corridors. They were hunting now, not defending, hunting. The second wave of Marak boarders had entered the ship, expecting to find weak and scattered humans. Instead, they found teams of soldiers who appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and vanished before they could react. Beak himself had taken 3 wounds, one on his shoulder, one on his leg, one across his ribs. By any reasonable measure, he should be in the medical bay, but he was still moving, still fighting, still smiling. His grandmother had taught him an old Korean saying when he was a child: "A cornered rat will bite the cat." He had never understood it until now. When there was nowhere to run, you stopped being afraid. You stopped thinking about survival. You became something else entirely. "Contact ahead," one of his soldiers reported. 6 Marak moving toward the cargo bay. The cargo bay, where the children were hiding. Beak felt something shift inside him. It was like a door opening in his mind. Behind that door was an old and terrible power. The power his ancestors had used to survive ice ages and predators and wars. The power that had made humanity the masters of their world. "Follow me," he said. His voice was different now. Lower, calmer, more dangerous. They moved through the corridors like shadows. The Marak did not see them coming. By the time the aliens realized they were under attack, 3 of them were already down. The other 3 turned to fight, their 4 arms swinging with deadly force. Beak ducked under a claw strike and drove his blade into the alien's knee. As it fell, he was already moving to the next target. His injured leg screamed with pain. He ignored it. His shoulder was bleeding through the bandage. He ignored it. There was nothing in his mind but the fight. Nothing but the hunt. When it was over, 6 Marak lay dead on the floor. Beak stood among them, breathing hard, covered in blood both human and alien. His soldiers looked at him with a mixture of respect and fear. "Sergeant," one of them said quietly, "your leg." Beak looked down. The wound had reopened. Blood was pooling around his boot. He should not be standing. He should not be conscious. But he was. "It can wait," he said. "We have more hunting to do." In the council chamber, the delegates were completely silent. Counselor Braun had stopped making dismissive comments. His yellow eyes were fixed on the screen, watching every movement the humans made. "They should be dead," he said finally. "By every measure I know, they should be dead. Their injuries are too severe. Their enemy is too strong, but they keep fighting." "It is not just fighting," Velnese observed. "Look at how they move, how they coordinate. They are not communicating with words. They are moving as one organism." He was right. The humans on the screen were working in perfect synchronization. When one moved left, the others moved to cover them. When one attacked, the others were already in position to follow up. It was as if they shared one mind. "Pack hunting," Lyra said softly. "I have seen this before in the wild predators of my homeworld, but never in an intelligent species. They are hunting together, sharing awareness without needing to speak." "How is that possible?" "I do not know, but I think it is something very old, something built into their biology over millions of years." On the bridge of the Endurance, Captain June watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. His ship was damaged but still fighting. His crew was wounded but still standing. The Marak had expected an easy victory. They were not getting one. A new transmission came in. Warlord Dreth's ugly face appeared on the screen, and this time the alien did not look confident. He looked angry. "Human," Dreth growled, "you are testing my patience. Your ship is crippled. Half your crew is dead or dying. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick." June looked at the screen. His eyes were calm and cold. "No." "No," Dreth's 4 eyes widened. "You dare to refuse me, I will destroy your ship. I will kill everyone on board." "You can try," June leaned forward slightly. "But I want you to understand something, Warlord. You threatened children. You threatened innocents. That was a mistake, because now you are not fighting soldiers. You are not fighting a crew. You are fighting something much older and much more dangerous." "And what is that?" Dreth sneered. June smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Hunters." He cut the transmission. On the screen, the Marak flagship began to move closer. Dreth was preparing for a final assault. He would send everything he had at the Endurance. Hundreds of warriors, overwhelming force. It would not be enough. June pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, this is the captain. The enemy is coming with everything they have. They think they are going to break us. They think we will fall." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of 100,000 years of human survival. "Show them what we are." Throughout the ship, wounded soldiers rose from where they had fallen. Medical staff picked up weapons. Engineers grabbed tools that could double as clubs. Even the refugees in the cargo bay watched as the humans around them changed. Their postures shifted, their eyes darkened, their breathing slowed and steadied. The hunters were awake now. All of them. And the prey was coming to them. The final wave hit the Endurance like a storm. 200 Marak warriors poured into the ship from every direction. They came through airlocks and breached hulls and shattered windows. They were the best fighters Warlord Dreth had. They had conquered a dozen worlds. They did not know what they were walking into. In the council chamber, the delegates watched in horrified silence as the battle unfolded. They had seen wars before. They had seen violence, but they had never seen anything like this. The humans did not fight like any species they knew. Most species fought to defend. When wounded, they retreated. When outnumbered, they surrendered. When death was certain, they accepted it. Humans did none of these things. A Marak warrior cornered a wounded human soldier in a narrow corridor. The human's weapon was empty. His right arm was broken. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. By any logic, he should have given up. Instead, he attacked. He threw himself at the massive alien with nothing but his bare hands and his teeth. The Marak was so surprised that it stumbled backward. Before it could recover, two more humans appeared from the shadows and brought it down. "Impossible," Counselor Braun whispered. "That is impossible." "It is not impossible," Velnes replied quietly. "It is simply human." On the screen, the pattern repeated again and again. Humans who should be unconscious kept fighting. Humans who should be running kept advancing. And most disturbing of all, they were winning. The Marak were stronger. The Marak were bigger. The Marak had 4 arms and armored skin and teeth that could bite through metal. But the Marak had something the humans did not have: the ability to give up. High Speaker Velnes watched the biometric data scrolling across his display. "Their bodies are destroying themselves," he said. "The chemicals in their blood are pushing their muscles beyond safe limits. They will suffer permanent damage. Some of them may die even if they win." "Then why do they continue?" another delegate asked. "Because they have decided that winning matters more than living." Ambassador Lyra's feathers were pressed so flat against her body that she looked half her normal size, but she could not look away from the screen. Those were her people in the cargo bay. Those children were Kesari, and the humans were dying to protect them. "I understand now," she said softly. "This is what human love looks like." "Love," Braun made a sound of disgust. "This is not love, this is madness." "It is both." Lyra turned to face him, her golden eyes bright with tears. "They love so strongly that they will go mad to protect what they love. To them, there is no difference between the two." In the cargo bay, Private Cho Wu still stood guard. He had been fighting for 2 hours now. His one good arm held his weapon steady, but the rest of his body was failing. He could not feel his legs anymore. His vision was getting dark around the edges. His heart was beating too fast, trying to pump blood that was no longer there. But he would not fall. The Kesari children huddled behind him, watching with wide eyes. They did not understand what they were seeing. They only knew that the human had promised to protect them, and he was keeping that promise with every breath he had left. The door exploded inward. 3 Marak warriors burst through, their weapons firing. Cho Wu moved without thinking. He pushed the children back with his broken arm, ignoring the scream of pain that tore through his body. His good hand raised his weapon and fired. 1 Marak fell. The other 2 kept coming. Cho Wu fired again. His weapon clicked empty. He threw it at the nearest alien and drew his knife. The Marak was 3 times his size. It had 4 arms and skin like armor. It did not matter. He attacked anyway. The fight lasted only seconds. Cho Wu drove his knife into the alien's eye. The creature screamed and fell. But the 3rd Marak caught him with a massive claw, lifting him off the ground and slamming him against the wall. Something broke inside him. He felt it snap. His vision went white with pain. The alien's face filled his sight, its teeth bared in a triumphant snarl. And then something strange happened. Cho Wu smiled. The Marak hesitated. It had killed many enemies. It had seen many faces in the moment before death. Fear, despair, begging, but it had never seen this. The human was dying. The human knew he was dying, and he was smiling. What are you?" the alien whispered. Cho Wu's hand, the one that was supposed to be broken, came up holding a small device. A grenade. His thumb was already on the trigger. "I'm the thing you should not have threatened," Cho Wu said. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. I am the guardian at the door." The Marak tried to drop him, but it was too late. The grenade exploded. In the council chamber, the delegates cried out in shock. The camera feed went white, then slowly cleared to show the aftermath. The Marak warrior was dead, blown apart by the explosion. The cargo bay was damaged but intact. And somehow, impossibly, Cho Wu was still alive. He lay against the far wall where the blast had thrown him. His body was broken in a dozen places. He should be dead. He should have been dead 10 times over by now. But his eyes were open, and he was still watching the door. The little Kesari girl, the one who had asked if the human would save them, crawled out from behind the containers. She moved slowly toward the fallen soldier, her small wings trembling. "Human," she said softly, "human, are you alive?" Cho Wu's eyes found her. He tried to smile, but his face would not cooperate anymore. So he just looked at her, and in his eyes was something that needed no translation. "I kept my promise." The girl reached him and took his hand. It was cold and covered in blood, but she held it anyway. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for protecting us." Cho Wu's eyes closed. His breathing slowed, but he did not die. Not yet. Not until he knew the children were safe. On the bridge, Captain June watched the tactical display with burning eyes. The Marak were failing. Their assault was breaking apart. But Dreth's flagship was still out there, and the warlord still had options. "Lieutenant Yuna," June said, "status on enemy flagship." "They are charging weapons for a full bombardment, sir. They are going to try to destroy us from range." "Can we evade?" "No, sir. Our engines are too damaged. If they fire, they will hit us." June nodded slowly. He had expected this. Dreth was a coward at heart. When his warriors failed, he would fall back on brute force. He would destroy the Endurance and everyone on it rather than face defeat. Unless someone stopped him. "Lieutenant, bring us about. Full acceleration toward the enemy flagship." Yuna's hands paused over her controls. "Sir." "You heard me. Ram them if you have to, but we are not letting them fire on this ship." "Captain, that is a suicide run." "I know." June's voice was calm, peaceful, even. "But those children are not dying today, not while I have a ship to throw at the enemy." In the council chamber, the delegates erupted in confused noise. Ramming. The humans were going to ram the enemy flagship. That was insane. That was beyond insane. That was something no species in the galaxy would ever consider. But the Endurance was already moving. Its damaged engine screamed with effort as it accelerated toward Dreth's ship. On the screen, the human vessel looked like a wounded animal making one last desperate charge. Warlord Dreth saw what was happening. His face appeared on the communication channel, twisted with rage and something else. "Fear." "You are mad," he screamed. "You will die." Captain June's response was simple. "Maybe, but so will you." The Marak flagship tried to turn, tried to evade, but it was too large, too slow. The Endurance was coming, and nothing was going to stop it. At the last moment, Lieutenant Yuna made a small adjustment to their course. Instead of hitting the flagship directly, they scraped along its side, their damaged hull tearing through weapon systems and shield generators. Sparks flew. Metal screamed. Both ships shuddered with the impact. But the Endurance did not explode. It did not die. It latched on like a predator, sinking its teeth into prey. "Boarding parties away," Sergeant Beak's voice came through the comm. He was still alive, still fighting, still hunting. "We are taking their ship, Captain." June allowed himself a small smile. "Good hunting, Sergeant." On the council screen, the delegates watched as human soldiers poured out of the Endurance and into the Marak flagship. They were wounded, exhausted, and outnumbered. They did not care. The hunt was not over yet. The Marak flagship fell in less than 1 hour. Warlord Dreth's personal guards, the best fighters his species had ever produced, fought with desperate fury. They had conquered entire planets. They had crushed armies. They had never known defeat. They learned it today. Sergeant Beak T led the assault on the command deck. His body was broken in ways that should have killed him hours ago. But he was still moving, still fighting, still smiling that terrible smile that made even his own soldiers nervous. Dreth tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Beak caught him. The warlord was massive. He stood nearly 4 meters tall, with 4 arms thick as tree trunks and armor that could stop plasma fire. He had killed thousands of enemies with his own hands. He was the terror of the galaxy. He looked into Beak's eyes and saw something that made him freeze. The human was not looking at him like an enemy. The human was looking at him like prey, like something already dead that just had not realized it yet. "Please," Dreth whispered. It was the first time he had ever said that word. "Please, I surrender, I yield, take me prisoner." Beak stopped. For a long moment he just stood there, breathing hard, his knife dripping with alien blood. Part of him, the old and hungry part that had woken up during the battle, wanted to finish it, wanted to hunt until there was nothing left to hunt. But another part of him remembered who he was, what he was fighting for, why he was still standing. He lowered his knife. "You threatened children," Beak said. His voice was rough with exhaustion. "You would have taken them as slaves. You would have destroyed their lives." I am sorry." "No, you are not yet." Beak grabbed Dreth by the collar and dragged him forward. "But you will be, because you are not going to die today. You are going to live. You are going to face justice. And every day for the rest of your life you will remember this moment. You will remember what happened when you threatened humans." In the council chamber, the delegates watched in stunned silence as the Marak warlord was dragged away in chains. The remaining Marak ships were surrendering. The battle was over. The humans had won. High Speaker Velny sat very still in his floating chair. His compound eyes blinked slowly as he processed what he had just witnessed. In 3,000 years of leading the council, he had never seen anything like this. "It is finished," he said quietly. Councillor Braun shook his massive head. "I do not believe it. One ship, one human ship against 5 Marak warships, and they won. They actually won." "They did more than win," Ambassador Lyra said. Her voice was filled with wonder. "They could have destroyed all the Marak ships. They could have killed Dreth, but they chose not to. They chose mercy." "Why?" Braun demanded. "They had every right to destroy them." "Because that is the human way." Velnys rose from his chair and moved closer to the screen. "They can become monsters when they must. They can unleash something terrible and ancient from within themselves. But when the threat is over, they put it away again. They choose to be civilized." On the screen, the Endurance was slowly separating from the Marak flagship. Both ships were badly damaged, but both were still flying. Medical shuttles were already moving between them, carrying wounded from both sides. The refugees were being evacuated to safety. Kasari children who had been hiding in the cargo bay were emerging into the light, their eyes wide with wonder. They were alive. They were free. They would see their families again. And walking among them, being carried by his fellow soldiers because he could no longer walk on his own, was Private Cho Wu. He was barely conscious. His body was destroyed. The doctors said it would take months of surgery and therapy before he could walk again. But when the little Kesari girl ran up to him and grabbed his hand, his eyes opened. "You saved us," she said, tears streaming down her feathered face. "You really saved us." Cho Wu squeezed her hand weakly. "Of course we did," he whispered. "That is what humans do." The girl's mother approached, her wings wrapped around herself in the Kesari gesture of deep gratitude. "I do not understand," she said. "Why did you fight so hard for us? We are strangers. We are not even the same species." Dr. Shin Hana, who had been checking Cho Wu's injuries, looked up with a gentle smile. "It does not matter what species you are. You were in danger. Your children were in danger. That is all we needed to know." But the cost, so many of you were hurt, some of you died. Yes, Hana's smile faded slightly, touched with sadness. 7 of our people did not survive. They knew the risk when they volunteered for this mission. They chose to take it anyway. Why? Hana looked at the children gathered around Cho Wu, at their bright eyes and hopeful faces. Because they believed your lives were worth protecting, even at the cost of their own. 3 days later, the Endurance limped into dock at Harmony Prime, the great space station where the Galactic Council met. The ship was barely holding together. Its hull was scarred and torn. Whole sections had been sealed off because they were open to space. But it had made it, and so had every single refugee. Captain Park Jun stood on the station's observation deck, watching as his crew disembarked. Many of them were on stretchers. Many of them would carry scars for the rest of their lives, but they were alive and they were proud. High Speaker Velnes approached him. The insectoid leader moved slowly, his many eyes studying the human with new understanding. Captain Jun, he said formally, the Council has been deliberating on what we witnessed. And what did you decide? There was much debate. Some argued that humans are too dangerous, that what we saw proves you should be expelled from the Council before you turn that violence against us. Jun said nothing, he just waited. But others argued differently. They said that yes, humans are dangerous, terrifying even, but you are only dangerous to those who threaten the innocent. To everyone else you are protectors, guardians, the kind of allies that the galaxy desperately needs. And what do you believe, High Speaker? Velnes was quiet for a long moment. Then his mandibles clicked in what Jun had learned was a Neth smile. I believe that for 10,000 years we thought we knew what predators were. Cold, cruel, merciless. Today I learned there is another kind. The kind that hunts so others do not have to. The kind that becomes a monster so children can sleep safely. The kind that carries the darkness within them but still chooses the light. He extended one of his 4 arms in the human gesture of respect. Welcome to the Council, humanity. Welcome truly this time. We are glad you hunt with us. Jun took his hand and shook it firmly. Thank you, High Speaker. We are glad to be here. Behind them, the refugees were disembarking from the transport shuttles. Kesari families reunited, crying and laughing and holding each other. Children ran across the station deck, their wings spread wide with joy. And in the middle of them all, being pushed in a medical chair by Lieutenant Kang Yuna, was Private Cho Wu. The little Kesari girl spotted him and ran over, throwing her arms around him despite the protests of the medical staff. Cho Wu smiled, a real smile this time, and hugged her back with his one working arm. What will you do now? She asked him. Heal, Cho Wu said, rest, and then go back out there. Why? Are there more people who need saving? There are always more people who need saving. He looked at her with gentle eyes, all traces of the hunter hidden away again. That is why we exist. That is what makes us human. Ambassador Lyra watched this scene from across the deck. Beside her stood Counselor Braun, his yellow eyes softer than she had ever seen them. I was wrong about them, Braun admitted quietly. I thought they were unstable, dangerous, unfit for the Council. And now I think they are all of those things. He paused, his scales shifting color in what Lyra recognized as Torak embarrassment. But I also think they are exactly what the galaxy needs. Someone has to stand against the darkness. Someone has to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The rest of us are too afraid. But humans are not. Humans are afraid too. Braun shook his massive head slowly. They just refuse to let fear stop them. I do not understand it. I do not think I ever will, but I am grateful for it. Lyra spread her wings slightly, a gesture of agreement. So am I, Counselor, so am I. Captain Jun walked among his crew, shaking hands and clasping shoulders. They had been through hell together. They had lost friends. They had pushed their bodies beyond all reasonable limits, and they had won. "Captain," Lieutenant Yuna said as he approached her, "what happens now?" June looked around the station deck. He saw the refugees starting their new lives. He saw his wounded crew being cared for. He saw alien delegates watching them with new respect in their eyes. "Now we heal," he said. "We mourn our dead, we honor their sacrifice, and then we get back to work. You think there will be more missions like this one?" "I know there will be. The galaxy is a dangerous place. There will always be someone threatening the innocent. There will always be someone who needs protecting." He turned to face her, and in his eyes was the same quiet determination that had carried them through the battle. "And when that happens, we will be there, because that is what humans do. We protect, we fight, we hunt." He looked up at the stars visible through the station's great windows. Somewhere out there, danger was waiting. Somewhere out there, innocent lives were at risk. But somewhere out there, humanity was also watching, ready to answer the call, ready to unleash the hunter that lived inside every human heart, ready to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened the people they had sworn to protect. The Endurance would fly again, and so would its crew. The hunt was never truly over. It was just waiting for the next prey.